Hey y'all, it's Ryan. You might not know this, but I love gnomes. They're cute and fun to draw. So with Valentine's Day right around the corner, we're going to draw this fun Valentine's Day gnome. So grab your drawing tools and let's go. So the first thing we need to do is set up our canvas for our Valentine's Day gnome. So click on the plus sign in the upper right hand corner, find your 3000 by 3000 pixel canvas, and then I like to add my drawing guides. So I'm going to click the wrench in the upper left-hand corner, click drawing guide to turn it on. And I like the 2D grid setup. And I'm also going to turn on a reference. So I'm going to choose image from my iPad, and I'm going to select this sketch that I've already created of this gnome. I'm going to resize my reference, and then I'm going to move it out of my way so that I can have what I'm drawing over here, my reference, while I'm drawing on my canvas. So the first piece that I like to draw is actually the nose of my gnome, because I like to center that on my canvas to build around. So I have just straight black selected, and then for sketching I like to use the 6B pencil brush from the Procreate library. So I'm going to start by just drawing an ellipse and then selecting it until it snaps into the center of my canvas. From here I can draw my gnome. I'm gonna make that just a smidge smaller. Okay. So next I'm going to get my hat. So about the middle of his nose. It's going to draw a straight, kind of a curve across. Okay. And then his hat, going to start down here at the bottom corner, come up, make a little curlicue, and then on the other side do the same thing. However, I'm going to hold on my canvas so that it snaps into this arch for me, and then I can zoom in and finish kind of the point of his hat up at the top. And then we're going to have a little circle on the end of his hat. So next I'm going to start working on his beard. So I'm going to zoom in on my reference. So from the edge of his hat, we're going to come down at an arc and then come back up. Do that one more time. And then I like to give myself kind of a dot where the center or the point of his beard is going to end up. And then from here, we're gonna make kind of an S curve for the bottom of his beard. We're going to get as close to the left side as we can on the right. So we're going to go down at a curve and then come back up at a sharp angle. Do that again. And then again with the S. Connecting down at the bottom of his beard. Now my gnome has kind of a bell-shaped body. So I'm going to, in this middle area of his beard, I'm just going to draw a curved line down. And it's not overly curved, just slightly. And then again over here, slight curve on the bottom. And connect them. Okay, so I actually added arms to this guy. So I'm gonna follow the curve of his body for the sleeve, and then just add kind of a half circle for a hand on both sides. And this is just a sketch. So when I actually come back in and add color to it, I can make this beard longer so it covers more of his body. So this half of his body is actually going to be squished in a little bit more. Next up, I'm going to work on his kind of Sam Elliott-esque handlebar mustache. So from the side of his nose, make an S down, and then from the center, we're just going to curve it around to make a point. And then we're going to repeat on the right side. So an S down, and then curve to make that point. Okay, and the last piece that we're going to add is going to be this heart balloon. So I'm going to draw one half of the heart and hold so that it snaps into an arc for me. And then draw my other half, do the same thing. I'm going to draw the little bottom piece of the balloon and sketch the string that it's on all the way down to his hand. Okay, so there's just the basic sketch. Next, we're going to add in new layers and start adding in our color to our image. So before I start adding in my colors and my details, I need to do a couple of things. One, I'm going to come into my layers, click on the N for the blending mode, and turn the opacity of my sketch down so I can barely see it. And then I'm going to click on my reference and click import so that I can change the photo that I'm going to use as my reference into the colored final image of our Valentine's Day gnome. So the first piece that I add whenever doing this gnome is going to be, again, his nose, because that layer is where I'm going to build underneath. And again, that's kind of my starting point in the center of my canvas. So in my layers, I'm gonna click the plus sign. I'm gonna make sure I have the tan color selected for his nose. And then my brush is going to be set to Monoline. Okay. So when adding colors to this image, I do like how skinny the hat is in my original, so I'm going to actually edit this as I add the color to it. So I'm going to add a new layer. I'm going to put my nose at the very top, and this is going to be my hat. So I'm going to change to this bright red, and I'm going to draw the bottom of the hat. I'm not going to draw it as wide, I'm going to make it skinnier. I'm going to follow that arch up. I'm going to do the same thing I did on my sketch. And hold so that it snaps to for me. And then connect at the very top, so that I can drag my color and it will fill that hat for me. Okay. The next piece of the hat that I'm going to add is this cute little bauble on the end. So I'm just going to change to a brighter or lighter color pink, make a circle, and then do color fill. Okay. So the next thing that I'm going to work on is going to be his beard. So I'm underneath, in between my hat layer and my sketch is where I'm going to draw his beard because I want it to be under the hat. So I'm gonna have that layer underneath. I'm going to select this dark gray. And again, I'm just going to follow that line. And then make my midpoint for where his beard is going to stop. And make the S. Okay, here's why I really like using the 2D grid for my reference in the back, because I can see where this point ends. And so I can follow this 2D grid over to the side so I can try my best to match them up so they're even without having to use the symmetry tool. Okay. Make that S again down to the point. Again, I'm going to draw my connector line in the back to close this shape. And then I need to make sure that all of my points are closed so that when I go to use my color fill, it only fills in the beard and it doesn't fill in the entire canvas. So let's see if I got them all. Awesome. The next layer I'm going to add is going to be his little shirt. So I'm going to zoom in on my reference, come into my layers. I'm going to add this again on top of my sketch layer underneath my beard. And then I'm going to jump to this really bright colored pink. To add in that side curve of his body. Okay. And then, ooh, the bottom. Okay, now I'm actually going to turn the beard layer off just to ensure that I get this layer completely closed so that when I use the color fill, it only fills in his shirt. Then I can turn my beard back on and there we go. So I'm actually going to squish this in just a little bit. So I'm going to use my select tool and I still have it on freeform. So I'm just going to bring the sides in just a hair. There we go, that looks a little better. And then I'm going to add in his long sleeves and I'm going to put this layer behind my shirt layer and change my color to this darker pink. So just add my curved line down and then I'm making a smaller curve for the end of his long sleeves. Draw a second line to fill. And then I'm going to repeat those steps on the left. Okay. Next up, I'm going to add his hands. So in my layers, I'm going to continue adding the layers on the bottom. And then I'm gonna come back to that same tan color that I had for his nose. I'm going to draw my half arc right there, come down, and then just color that in. And do the same on the other side. Okay. So the next thing I'm going to add is going to be his handlebar mustache right here on top of his beard. And for that, I'm actually going to come in here, turn the beard layer off so I can see where I placed it on my sketch. And I'm going to come into my layers and add a layer on top of the beard so that it shows up. And then I'm going to change it to a light gray. I'm just going to do the left and the right side of his mustache. Nope, I forgot to add a closing line in the back. Now let's see. There we go. Now I can come back into my layers and turn my beard back on. So my mustache kind of goes out over here, so I actually want to make sure it's selected, and I'm going to adjust the size of it. Move my reference out of the way, and I'm going to select freeform so that I can squish this side in just a little bit, but still making sure that it's centered on his nose. All right, that looks a little better. So in my final, I actually decided to add in 3 balloons, and it was about this time when I was adding in details that I said, yeah, let's add 3. So we're going to add 3 over here instead of just the 1. So on a new layer, again, underneath everything, I'm going to come back to my bright red, and I'm going to start with the first balloon that will be the furthest or in the back behind all the other 2. Okay, go ahead and fill that in. And then come back to my light gray and add in the string. Now I want each balloon on its own layer, so I'm going to add another layer on top of that first balloon, and I'm going to come to our light pink. I'm going to draw my heart shape. Fill. There we go. Add the end of the balloon. Go back to my light gray and add the string. Okay. The last balloon, I'm going to change to the same light pink that we did for on his hat. This one is going to be right up front. Okay. Fill. at the bottom, change back to my light gray, and add that final string. And then here I'm also going to add kind of a knot with little strings coming out of it. For that, I'm going to turn my brush all the way down to 1. I'm just going to draw 2 arches, color them in, and then 3 little strings coming down. So now I'm going to come into my layers. I'm going to turn this sketch off so I can focus on adding my details into different layers on my image. So the first details I'm going to add to my gnome are going to be on his hat. So in my layers, I'm going to add a new layer above his hat, click on it, and click Clipping Mask. So that way everything that I draw stays right here on his hat. I'm going to change to a pure white. So in my color disc, I'm going to double tap in the white area and it will bring me to white. And I'm still using the Monoline brush. So I'm going to draw kind of this arc and duplicate it. And then here is where I did hearts, then 3 dots, and I just repeated this pattern all in this area of his hat. And to fill my hearts quickly, I'm going to drop in 1, click on the color fill and select color dropping. So I can go in and quickly fill in my hearts with the white color that I have. Okay, now I'm going to repeat this pattern twice. So in my layers, I'm going to swipe to the left, click duplicate, going to then select that top layer, and move it up just a little bit and rotate it so it matches the curve of his hat. Come back into my layers and smush those 2 together to merge them into 1. The next piece that I added is this zigzag line and then 3 hearts underneath it. So I start off of the hat to ensure that it looks like it's carrying and it's going around, so it's not just a clear start and stop. I'm going to repeat that zigzag on top. And I just came in with my pen and I added little dots in the zigzag area first. Then I came back and added in the hearts. And then did the same thing with the color dropping. So this is where that pattern is going to start repeating. So I'm going to swipe to the left, click duplicate. I'm going to move this pattern up, and I'm actually going to delete or erase a good chunk of it. And resize it and tilt it just a little bit. And I'm going to select my eraser and I'm going to actually erase this top portion of it because I'm going to redo that. So in between the layers, I actually added hearts here as well. So coming back into my layers, I'm gonna smoosh these two together. Going to add my hearts here. I think I can fit half the other one over here. Nope. So that one I'm just going to color in. Okay. Up here, I repeated this pattern. So up at the top, I still did my zigzag. With my dots. And then my hearts. Go back to that arch. I'm going to drop my brush size down to 1 since we're getting up into a really tight spot right here. Okay, and I'm going to fill in my hearts. And do that one more time. And then add the zigzag. And dots. And there I have his pattern on his hat. So the next details that I'm going to add and using clipping masks are going to be the shadows underneath his nose and his mustache and his beard. So I'm going to come into my layers. On the mustache layer, I'm going to add a new layer, click on it and select clipping mask. On the brush, I'm going to come down to the soft brush that can be found in your airbrushing brush set, so the soft brush. And I'm going to set that to 3 and the opacity down to about 35 or 36. And then I have pure black selected, and I am just going to draw that shadow in between the nose, under the nose and the mustache. And then I'm gonna come into my adjustments and select blur. I'm gonna take that blur up to, let's say 8%. I'm gonna follow the same steps to add a shadow to my mustache. Click on the beard, new, clipping mask. And then same, still using that soft brush, adding that shadow underneath the mustache. Go into my adjustments, blur, take that up to about 8 as well. And then the last shadow that I'm gonna add on him is going to be underneath his beard. So click on his shirt, add a new layer, make that into a clipping mask. And then wherever that beard is overhanging his shirt, going to draw in the shadow. Okay, come into my adjustments again, add that blur, and set it up to about, let's do 10% on this one. All right. Next, I'm going to start adding in highlights. So for that, I'm going to add a highlight to his nose. I need to come back in, and I'm actually going to make sure that his nose is completely filled in. Make sure I'm on the right layer to fill it in. Okay. For the highlights, I'm going to select this bright yellow. It's not pure white, it just has a little tint of yellow to it. I'm still in the Monoline brush, and I'm gonna take it all the way down to 1. And then I'm just going to add that curved line to his nose to show that there's a highlight there. And I'm also going to add highlights onto my balloons, but I'm also going to add shadows here. So on my balloons, I'm going to start with a shadow of this pink balloon on the second pink balloon. So I'm gonna add a clipping mask to that second pink balloon. For this, I'm going to select my noise brush and use black. There we go. Add a new layer, make it a clipping mask. And then anything that I draw, ooh, that's way too big. Let's take that down to 6. So anywhere that this pink balloon is on top of my other one, I'm going to add a shadow to it. Come into my adjustments, select blur. Let's take that up to 8. Let's take it to 5. Okay, I'm gonna repeat the process on this red balloon right here. So select the red balloon, add a layer, make it a clipping mask. And then anywhere a balloon is touching it or over it, I'm going to add that shadow. And then come into my adjustments and add a blur to it. Let's take that up to 5 as well. So now I'm going to go in and add highlights to each balloon. I'm going to select a clipping mask. I'm going to turn my brush back to Monoline and go back to that bright yellow. So again, following the curve of that balloon. Come to this balloon right here, add a clipping mask, follow the curve. And then the last one will be on my red balloon. Okay, we are almost done with this piece. Next, we're going to add a shadow underneath our gnome and change our background color. So for the shadow of our gnome, I'm going to add a layer underneath everything. So here's my sketch layer. I'm gonna add a layer above it. I'm gonna come back and select my noise brush and go with black again. And I'm just going to, let's bump that up to 50. Add a shadow underneath him. Go into my adjustments, go to blur. I'm gonna set that up to 12. And the last piece that we need to do is change our background color. I have it set to a really light pink that makes all of the other pink and red of this picture stand out. I'm going to turn off my drawing guide and my reference. So there we have it, our cute Valentine's Day inspired gnome, who is sure to spread love wherever he goes. Thank you for drawing with me today. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe to this channel and hit the bell so that you're notified whenever new videos are posted. Hope to see you soon.